I call to order the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting on Thursday, July 15th. First up would be a motion to approve of the minutes from May 21st and our June 17th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. If everyone approves, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Nice job.
Thanks. Okay, next up would be the public forum. This would be for anything that is not on the agenda. Seeing none.
Nothing.
Okay, next up would be the presentation on the Iowa Creek Stream Stabilization Project in Brookside Park.
Yeah. So we wanted to do, there is a project that's going to be coming up, and it's being done through Public Works. It will be in Brookside, and we'll go through some slides for you. We do have Tracy Peterson, who's a civil engineer. She's here. Liz Calhoun, who is going to be the kind of the lead on the project. She is not here this week, so Tracy's in her place. And then we have Cesar, and engineer Cesar. Okay, so yeah, so they're here to help answer any questions as well. But we'll kind of walk through, this. You want to advance them, Joshua? So really with going through this, and the reason that we're showing this, so there is going to be some stream bank improvements. There is also going to be a number of trees potentially that will be taken down along the stream bank in Brookside. So that's what we really wanted to share this project with you, and we'll go through the why and show you some of the pictures that we'll give you a better understanding. So really what we want to do tonight for you is you have these outcomes. So we want you to have a better understanding of the project when we get done. We also want you to be aware of the project impact to Brookside Park. We're going to go through the timeline so you understand that, as well as what groups. Some have already been met with, some will be met with, and so on. And then really give you some information. So if you do start getting questions, you have the ability to answer those. And if you don't know the answer, who to refer people to. So that's really what we want to try to do with this project. So with it, the goal, of this project, the why first. All right. So the why. So through Brookside, and if you've gone in there, there are unstable banks. There are some, you'd like to see banks that have some type of slope to them, whether it's a 3-to-1, 4-to-1, whatever it might be. And the three, when you hear those numbers, 3 or 4-to-1, it means that you have a run of 4 feet and then a drop of 1 foot. Kind of gives you that. Right now, we'll show you some pictures. We have some unstable banks, and some of them are vertical. So 0 to 1 slope. So not very good. And obviously those are unstable, and they lead to a lot of creek bank erosion. And then there are on the east side of the stream, there are some steep slopes that are threatening property. So if we continue to have the unstable banks, we have the erosion, those steep banks continue to erode, could potentially affect people's garages, eventually their homes. So that's why that's the why of why we're doing this. And some of these banks you'll see are close to some trails. So if we don't do anything, we could lose the trail as well. So that's the why of the project. And then the goal is we really want to create a resilient stream bank by stabilizing the bank. And then also improvements must result in no rise of the water level. So you'll see in some of these areas solutions of putting riprap rocks along the stream bank. And so if you put rock in there and you don't do anything else to the stream bank, when it does flood, the water levels will be higher because you've added things to the stream bank. So there are some things that you have to do. So the Iowa DNR, they always, we have to say whatever we do results in no rise to the water levels. So Tracy, you want to add anything to those three comments?
I would just say that this project was brought forward to Public Works as we prepared our capital improvements plan from the citizens. Really we have a program called Stormwater Erosion Control Program, and we prioritize those throughout town. We have a 5-year capital improvements plan, but we have probably 10 to 15 years worth of projects. We have very unstable creeks in town. We've had an assessment of our stream conditions done in 2007, and then because we flooded in 2008 and 2010, and those floods take so much of that stream bank with it, then we had that updated in 2011. So we have conditions, and our creeks are very unstable and degrading. With that comes lack of habitat, lack of the ability of those invertebrates and animals, bugs, bunnies, critters to be living in these areas. So, when we talk about doing these projects, sometimes there's destruction, but ultimately what we're doing is restoring it to a healthier, wanted species, with the intention of native plants and things like that are going to be a better habitat overall. The state saw a lot of these projects starting to pop up throughout, and some were just, plopping some riprap in areas or just throwing some broken concrete in areas, and that doesn't fix the problem. And so for several years, and I was part of that, they created this Iowa River Restoration Toolbox. And so that has an assessment process that guides us to analyze what the problem is and solving the problem to come to the solutions. So this is intentional, and it's data driven. So just want to let you know that.
And one thing that I would add when Tracy mentioned about, the end goal. So when we did the restoration of the Oak Savannah up at Ada Hayden, we had a lot of comments in regards to, you're going to affect the wildlife, you're taking down these trees and so on. So we did take down some trees, and we did do some things with the understory and the vegetation. But what happened once we did that, they started seeing wildlife that we hadn't had up there for a long time. We started seeing vegetation. The seed bank was in the ground, and because we did some of what we did, that seed was starting to prosper. And again, some of that native vegetation. So I know people, you're ruining everything, and you're going to affect the wildlife. But the end goal winds up being better than what it is there right now. So we'll go through some of these slides, and just to give you an idea, and don't worry about these pictures. We have them later on, so you'll be able to see them bigger. But I just want to let you know that this is 13th Street right here, and you got the Furman Aquatic Center up here. So this is where the Iowa Creek crosses under 13th Street. It goes through. We do have, pedestrian bridge, right in here. And really most of the focus is between the two pedestrian bridges. This one that's up here. And then, the creek continues to wind through. You see the tennis courts right here. This is 6th Street down here. And then you've got the other pedestrian bridge. So most of the work is going to be between those two pedestrian bridges. All right.
I will say there is a couple spots that we're going to work on north of that pedestrian bridge.
Right.
I don't want to give you the impression we're not doing anything, but that if you see, it's very close to the trail. So that was one of the areas where we may need to do some riprap and then clearing the debris from the channel.
Yeah. So these two areas are outside of that area, and there is a potential with a rock riffle maybe on the south edge of that pedestrian bridge that's by the tennis courts. And again, with this, what we're going to be showing you is just some first conceptual ideas of how this could be addressed through the meetings, through comments from the commission tonight, through comments from the Friends group, from stakeholders and so on. All that information, city council, all that information will be taken, and Liz and Cesar and Tracy will go back to WHKS, who's the designer on this project. They'll take that and they'll take all that into account, and there may be some changes from what you're seeing tonight. So this is not the final design.
We're in the concept phase.
Yep.
Very preliminary.
So with this, WHKS did go out and they took some pictures. So this right here, if you see, so this is close to the trail, and you can even see the traffic light back here. But you can see very vertical, a lot of erosion happening, and if we don't do anything with that, eventually we'll lose the trail. We'd have to reroute it and so on. So with this, looking in this case, there would be some riprap, some armoring. Now, they just throw that up there when it's a vertical like that? No, some work will be done. They'll do some things, and then riprap will eventually be placed in that area. So kind of the what's the issue, and then how will it be resolved? All right. So next slide. So a little bit further down, again, this is upstream from that first pedestrian bridge that we showed you. Just a lot of debris, in the creek, that causes issues in a number of different ways. So this would just be cleaned up. All right. So the debris. The next one, and this is down. So this would be looking kind of from the pedestrian bridge to the south in this picture. Again, so the idea there is potentially putting kind of a rock and log riffle in there. And Tracy, do you want to just talk about the benefits of doing the log and rock?
Yeah, so there are, you can't really see it, but there are quite the slopes from 13th to actually even Lincoln Way on this stretch of Squaw Creek. So it helps to not only add aeration with the habitat, and the aquatic life, but it also provides some use for water users when we have kayakers and things like that. So it not only improves that water quality, but it also recreational users actually find it more entertaining to have a little bit of, life in the water, not just really flat. I think it's nice. We did something similar down just south of Lincoln Way, and we've gotten a lot of compliments on that one.
Yeah. All right. So then the east bank. So this is where you see some of those steep slopes, the erosion, and you can see some of buildings, on the top of those areas. So that's some of where those areas that would really, if we don't do anything, and this may not be the exact, picture, but it kind of gives you an idea that if it continues to erode, and you'll see a picture later on the west side, on the park side, where, it's eroding, and then the, trees are coming down and so on. And that's all part of that.
Yeah. A lot of the property owners on the east side that have lost big mature trees and continue to lose trees with each of the flooding events, because we have very flashy creeks in Ames. It's low right now, but we get a few inches of rain, the water goes up and it erodes the banks, and it erodes, takes their trees down. And so that was part of the conversation last week when we met with the homeowners that, you're going to continue to, if we don't do anything, you're going to continue to lose trees. You're going to continue to erode towards that garage. Those are some of the things to take into consideration.
Yep. So this is with the west bank, and again, you have these in the pictures on the thing, but you can see, some of the trees, coming down, right here, the bank erodes, the trees come down, and so on. So again, these are some issues that would be addressed also in the project. Next slide. So, and this would be, that's that south pedestrian bridge over to the tennis courts. And right now, looking again, doing just a rock riffle on the downside of this. And you'll see later too, we'll show you that, we are trying to bring people to the water, just like we did at North River Valley, some recreational experience, bring people to the water. And this helps with some of those experiences where people may get in and just walk the creek a little bit and again, provide some different opportunities for them. So with this one, I just wanted to show again some of the things, but not only in addition to the stream bank, the erosion, and so on. As you can see, there are some repairs to disconnected water or storm sewer pipe. Again, another one down here, the disconnected storm sewer apron. With this one, placing some riprap along, the steep bank right there. And then you can kind of see a little bit, but kind of creating, a trail that goes down to the stream bank. One of the things that in conversation with WHKS and Liz, Joshua and I, we talked about right now they have this trail kind of coming in and then heading north and then getting down to the water. One of the things that we asked that they look at is that the best from a maintenance standpoint and for debris settlement too? Sometimes is it better to maybe have the trail come from a little bit further to the north, head south, and then go to the water? And will we wind up with less debris, silt, and so on collecting in some of those areas? So again, we don't know the answer. It's just questions that we had posed to WHKS as well. So these next three slides just kind of show you some areas here. So where you have these hashed marked areas in red, so that's where there will be some slope changes. And if you see, this kind of gives you the east side, this gives you the west side of it, and you can kind of see where here is what the existing is, right? Now, eventually what WHCAS would like to do, and part of that toolbox and so on, is try to get to a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 slope for a number of different reasons. So here's the existing. This is what we'd like to get to. Over on this side, again, existing, this is what we'd like to get to. Next slide. Same thing, kind of gives you, now this one, you can see how steep that is. So that's where, some riprap would be placed. You can see that all along there. And then over on this other side, again, existing, what we would need to get to. And then if you go to the next slide, same thing, a little steeper, some riprap. Don't have the room to do anything with that. But on this one right here, you can see is look at what the existing is and what we'd want to get to. Now, when you're taking out all that material with it and trying to get that slope changed, for the reasons that Tracy mentioned earlier, obviously if there are vegetation or is there vegetation, trees and so on, to change the slope, trees are going to have to come out. And that was one of the things that shared with you. And I don't know if you can put it up on the screen, if you can switch, Joshua, or not.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So on the handout that we had for you is Liz, Calhoun, Joshua, and then Paul Tauke, our forester, went out and actually did a walkthrough, of the area along the park. And that's giving you idea of, the number of trees, the types of trees and so on. So of that list, native species would be the Kentucky coffee tree, silver maple, walnut, hackberry, basswood, the bur oak. But even out of all of those, which trees would be more desirable? Probably the Kentucky coffee tree, the walnut, and the bur oak. A lot of the ones are non-native, and then they also, are just not very good trees. Some of them are heavy seed producers, so not necessarily invasive, but if they're heavy seed producers, you get a lot of those trees reproducing and coming up, and you can see, silver maple, the box elder, the basswood, those are some of the heavy seed producers, and you can see, those are some of the trees that are more prevalent in that area. Now, we'd like to try to save some of the more desirable trees if we could, but unfortunately, if you can go back to the other picture there, Joshua, back to the PowerPoint. So for example, right here, say there's a walnut, tree out here, all right, or a bur oak out here. It's very difficult because with some of those trees, you might have a 50-foot spread of it. And really what you want to do is you generally don't want to do anything from that drip line, which is the edge of that canopy. So you're talking if that's 50-foot diameter, and we have an oak, well, you don't want to disturb any of that. So it's very difficult to do that when you're going to have to take all of this debris out of here. So very difficult to save some of those trees. Now, if there's an oak or a walnut back here, where you don't have to take as much debris, that might be an area where you might be able to save, one of those trees. So just again, trying to give you that this is part of it. Obviously, it's needed. The project needs to be done. There's a lot of reasons why, but again, with it, whenever you take trees out, there are people that get frustrated and get excited and so on. So if you look at the next picture, okay, so it's not that we're just going to go in and take the trees out and do nothing back. There are a couple of different options. You can see there's some layering, of some things over here. There are some plantings, new growth, and so on. So again, for a while, will it be bare? Yes. Will it be something that will take time to revegetate? Yes. But I know Liz and Joshua met with Lori, who's president of the Friends of Brookside, and one of the things that Lori had mentioned was, maybe with the Friends, maybe we could purchase some larger trees or help pay for some larger trees that could be put in right away, so it doesn't look so barren. And we have, some trees that are a little bit more mature than maybe some of the things that we would put in initially. So next slide. So as far as the timeline, so Tracy had mentioned it last week. Did meet with the neighbors, and Tracy can give more information on that. She did share some of it. Liz and Joshua, like I mentioned, met with Lori Biederman from the Friends of Brookside Park. We're having this meeting tonight to give the information to you as commissioners. July 28th is going to be a meeting with stakeholders, and those stakeholders are wide. There's individuals from Iowa State University, because again, some of this property we do lease from the university, but they are a stakeholder in the project. So they'll be there. Skunk River paddlers. Tracy mentioned about some whitewater opportunities in the stream. There are some individuals that have been outspoken with the South Duff project. Two very different projects, but trees were taken down there. Trees will be taken down here. So they have been or will be invited to this meeting as well. DNR, and I know there's some others. I'm not hitting them all, but that will happen at with that stakeholder meeting, and then an open house at Brookside for anybody that wants to come and learn about the project. Then all the information that's collected at those prior meetings will be shared with City Council, so they understand the project and they're given to it. And then they may have some comments, and then Public Works will work with WHCS to do the final design, and then hopefully in the winter of this winter, then the construction will happen. So I'll let Tracy, Joshua, if you want to add anything in any of these meetings or any of these comments, or if there are some key stakeholders that I missed, if you want to share there as well.
Yeah, so Ames is a bird-friendly community. So that group, making sure that they're invited as part of the stakeholders, other professionals that do this type of work, who live in town or have an interest in Ames. So yeah, we have quite a few. When we met with the neighbors last week, they asked if they could join the stakeholders meeting. So they want to, make sure that their voice is continuing to be heard. And we got really good feedback and answered good questions during that meeting. It's the concept. So they're asking a lot of really detailed questions and a lot of detailed for their properties, and we'll need to walk their properties with them, and gave us some things to think about and ask. We have to create hydraulic models. Keith mentioned the no-rise conditions for the flooding. We have to make sure that we're going through that. And so, one property is between the two areas with steep slopes that are going to be rip-wrapped. And so what does that transition look like? Is it just a continuation of riprap instead of what we showed with going riprap to 4-to-1 slope to riprap? Those things we all need to be continuing to work through. And then, of course, City Council, they hear from all the constituents, so we want to make sure that they're aware of it. Though with final design, we always go to City Council again to approve plans and specs, and then go out for bid. And then we come back to City Council again. So that'll be a third time for the report of bids and award of contracts. So council will actually hear it 3 different times. So, but wanting to make sure that they're aware of what's going on. And so, the construction, the reason we say winter is that it provides the creek bed to be frozen. And so that gives a little more platform for the heavy equipment. And then because we're not changing the creek bed, but we're changing the banks. And so they can more solid sit there, and it's usually that winter is lower water conditions. And so that provides good opportunity for working in the creeks. So there's a lot to be done to finalize design and then to get permits. We have to go through Army Corps of Engineers as well as DNR floodplain. So that's why I can't really give you specific dates, because we need to go through this process. But that's also why we're really, hitting it now with a lot of the public input. And that's not to say we'll probably have another meeting to say, okay, here's what the design ended up being. So there'll be another outreach as well in there. I'd be glad to answer any questions. One that I get often is, the response to the South Duff area and how is this going to compare? It's so different. The South Duff is a flood mitigation project. We are needing capacity in the creek. We are lowering floodwaters in the South Duff area. That's why we're doing that one. And so that's why the massive tree drop, so that we can then have the land acquisition is right now. We're continuing to negotiate, and then we'll have a fall construction. We're taking down 2 buildings, buying out some property, and there's a massive amount of soil that's going to be coming out of there, so that there's a dished capacity in the channel. But we are going to restore that with native vegetation and create some pocket wetlands within that dished out area. And so we're doing things to improve water quality through there with that flood mitigation project. So a lot different, this is not going to be that.
Mhm. So any questions, comments?
I do. As a kind of a proof of concept or validation of longevity, how has the just south of Lincoln Way held up? Because is that 10 years now?
Yeah, it has actually held up really well. The reason we did that is we have an existing water main under there. And so I don't know that it's been, I lose track of time. It might have been 10 years, but I don't think it's been quite 10 years because in the 2005 or 6 probably. So the 2010 floods, we had a water main break in town. And so we shut down. We thought the break was initially in that area. And then we have 2 different water pressure zones with our drinking water system. And it really magnified how important that drinking water connection is. In the existing creek was eroding just like this, and it was continuing to get closer to exposing that water main. And so we actually got FEMA funds for that stabilization, and it was the first that they had granted for an erosion project like that. And so we did this resilient design, is what we kept saying to them, look, we need to use vegetation along with the rock. in the past, FEMA really just wanted to use gray. They just wanted to put pipes. They just want riprap, hard stuff, they like that. We convinced them to let us use this design, and it's been fun because it has held up. We've had floods, we've had flashiness, and it's been really solid.
Thanks.
Tracy, with the debris removal, is there going to be some additional time you might need? I know just north of this, there's junk everywhere, trees that have fallen. Is there any concern that the debris removal may delay this project in any way, or are you kind of fudging some time frame to get this reopened?
Yeah, well, we might need to make sure we're on the same page as far as debris, because we're not going to go into like the forested area or, the woodlands area, or really, not even north of 13th Street. We're not going to do this spot, pristine cleaning of the creek, but we do have areas where downed stuff has been swept away and then deposited. And so while we have the equipment in there is a good time to be doing that. So we can, work with Parks and Rec staff and make sure that we're getting and we're on the same page. But it shouldn't delay us. It should just be a matter of the timeline of the construction, working that into their consideration of the schedule.
Thank you.
With the construction being this, or at least hopefully being this winter, is the goal to have it done by the summer, or?
Yeah, so oftentimes with the more equipment-driven construction, then they would be done by spring. And then we would say have the native vegetation to be done by the end of June. That's the cutoff date for native seeding. But then, we'll work with like the Friends of Brookside Park if they want to do some bigger trees, and we want to use, native trees or quality trees. When is the best time to get those in the ground? And so we can sure work with that, so there may be something that is, okay, well, it's the following fall by the time all the vegetation is getting in.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's always times that we'll have to go in and overseed, to get things to really stabilize. We tend to, we've learned on our native seeding projects to turn the notch up a little bit and put more seed in initially, but there's always a time that we have to do that and to take care of it. We have to have green right away. So the first thing you're going to see is the oats and rye, because we have to have some sort of even temporary seed coming up. DNR's very particular about that. We want to make sure it's stabilized, so you'll see some vegetation.
And you've seen some of that with the Lowhead Dam project, with some of the stabilization and some of the vegetation didn't come up real great right away, but it's getting better.
Always depends on how much rain you get. We've had it where we've put it down and then it washed it away, and then we've had it put it down and it doesn't rain, and then it needs the rain to grow, as you know.
Any other questions?
Lori, did you have any questions?
No, I met with Joshua and Paul.
You wanna-
Liz.
Lori, come on up and if you have any comments that you want to share.
Do I have to, Lori Biederman, 1239 Orchard Drive, Ames. So I met with Joshua and Liz and Paul down at the park, I think a week or so ago. And I mean, it is going to be a drastic project. It's going to be sad, but I think ultimately the goals are really good. It'll be, if we can vegetate it with cool native plants, we'll actually increase the wildlife value of the place, plant flowering trees or shrubs and things like that. So I think it's going to be difficult to get through, the public, but I think ultimately it's a really good project. And I think it'll be good ecologically for the park.
So Lori, with your comments, is this kind of on behalf of the Friends group? Have you had conversation with other Friends members?
I've talked with some people in the neighborhood and with the people that are on the Friends, in the Friends group, and I've talked to the board, and I think generally everyone's supportive of it. especially when I explain, it's going to be, we have really cool opportunities to move forward. I think people are going to be sad about the trees. They really are. But,
yeah.
and I think education might be a really good, like, I think that just signage and because
Mhm.
people are going to go to the park and freak out. But I think,
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
and that's part of what we want to do and why we're doing all these
Mhm.
things is that education piece. But there is more. We can and we've done it with other projects. Public Works does it with other projects. Put a here's why. Kind of just some of the things that we've run through with the commissioners tonight is to give you that education. So
Yeah, when we
very
did
good
the
point.
College Creek's restoration project, we had several project signs and plexiglass boards and neighborhood I can't remember. We had several along that corridor because it's so heavily walked, very similar to this. And so, yeah, we put up project signs. Flood mitigation, I keep looking where we can put a project sign, but I don't want to cause a lot of car accidents on Duff. So and it would be so small that then would you be able to see it? So I need to rent that billboard, I think.
In other projects that we have done in the park system, specifically, prairie restoration, Ada Hayden, we put up basically realtor type looking signs with, project timeline, goals. And, we talked with Liz about doing the exact same thing here. It's perfect location for individuals walking on the path, riding their bikes on the path to see what's going on.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
And thank you, Tracy and Cesar, for coming tonight and answering questions and sharing additional knowledge on the project. So any ending comments from the commission? Support the project? Anything like that? I think that's always helpful for the public to know, or when we go out, hey, we did share this with the Parks and Recreation Commission. They're supportive of the project. They did have some questions. We'll try to address those, as we get into final design. So, and anything along those ways from the commission?
Thank you for taking it on.
Yeah.
This has been needed for a long time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I think it will look
Appreciate-
much better down there. So I appreciate that aspect too.
Yeah, I think
A much needed project that needs to be done, and it needs to be taken care of and cleaned up down there. And I do think it is going to be a sticker shock to see some of the trees come down. I mean, it's going to be a changed, but we're doing it for the betterment of the community too. So, and cleaning it up. So
great. Yeah, thank you. Construction, we say, it's inconvenient and it's destructive, but ultimately there's much more quality once it is done.
All right.
Well, feel
Thank
free to
you.
contact us if you have any other thoughts.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is a motion approving the Homewood Golf Course group outing rates.
So in the commission action form, you kind of laid out with the clubhouse, we now have the capability of hosting, larger outings. We have the capability to have more carts. We have the community room, the space, and so on. We do have some people that have been interested, have contacted Nate Peets, our recreation manager, in regards to this. So really what we wanted to do is and Nate had reached out to other golf courses, kind of saw what they were doing and so on. So what you see in front of you is 4 outings. So you can see if really 16 and over number of groups. So if somebody comes with 8, they would not get a group outing rate. You come with 16, you would. And then, they would have to do tee times. If it's 24 or more, receive the outing rate, and then an option to do a shotgun start. And you can kind of see the first chart that you have there in front of you is proposed greens fees without a cart. And then on the backside, you can see that they would be with a cart as well. So staff feels very comfortable with these rates. It gives another opportunity. So staff recommends alternative number 1 which is approve the Homewood Golf Course group outing rates as presented. I don't know if you have any questions.
These groups, they would at least be giving you like a 24-hour notice, or do you have a big groups that like do kind of walk-ups or last minute reservations?
We have not had large groups just come up and say, hey, we want to do this, because it's usually last fall, I think we had was it ISU band,
Marching band.
came. There's occasionally other groups. We had several years ago, we had a person that wanted to do a group outing for her birthday, and just have people come on out and do some things. So, and then right now, the people that are asking about it, those outings are in September is what they're wanting to do. So it's generally, further out
Okay.
that people
How
are wanting
far in
to do.
advance are you going to let groups book this type of thing? I only ask because I know we have 14 people going on a golf trip in about a month, and golf courses usually won't let us book until like a month in advance. So I didn't know what's
Yeah, we generally once the course is open, if somebody wanted to book an outing, we would do that.
Yeah.
We've not talked about putting a limit on it.
Oh,
With a lot of our programs, it's generally not programs, but with facilities, it might be a year out.
Yep.
With this, we're probably not going to wind up. Somebody's not going to want to book something that far out. And again, it will look, because if somebody comes and says, hey, we want to do an outing on Tuesday night, or on Wednesday night, well, we have City League. We're not going to bump City League unless you do it either before or after, their league.
Yep.
So those are things that Nate will have a good handle on and
Cool.
be able to do it. So, no, good question.
rates look good to me.
Is there anything additional that you do for groups? Like it's not costing you additional money for having groups at the golf course?
No, the only thing that sometimes, if a group, like some of the groups or associations that we're with, if they have a tournament or a group outing, they might do pin prizes. So sometimes it might be a matter of, somebody, staff person going out and putting those pin prizes, out on the greens. But that's really minimal, to have to do that. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do something. If it's a larger group, they'll do a shotgun start. Everybody comes in, might be something that they want some food, ahead of time, so we might have to cater something in for them, or afterwards they're waiting around. Somebody, we might wind up maybe doing some scores, tabulating some of that stuff, putting it up on the screen. But our staff is there, so it's not that we'd be bringing in extra staff to do it.
Okay.
But we'll do whatever we can so they can have a successful event and a successful outing, and hopefully they'll come back. They'll share it with other people, and we'll have
Better
other groups
exposure to
come.
that nice new clubhouse and
Yeah. Yep.
build that thing up.
That's right.
Yep. And I usually drink a lot of beer.
Goes without saying. I would move to approve alternative one, approve the Homewood Golf Course outing rates as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion approving the Homewood Golf Course group outing rates. Everyone, or
In discussion.
any discussion?
Yep.
Nope.
Okay. Can I get a,
Nope. You're out of
Okay.
motion. So just all in favor,
all in favor?
say aye.
Aye.
All
All
opposed?
opposed? Motion passes.
You're so good at this.
I know. I need more practice. Okay, next up on the agenda is motion approving the Iowa Games request to split the 10% of gross sales for softball tournaments in North River Valley Park.
Yeah, so this one just came up recently, and what the Iowa Games, they have their youth softball tournament. They have an adult softball tournament as well, but they have a youth softball tournament, and they always have a vendor there. And I think we became aware of this after 2019. So what they were doing, Iowa Games was taking 10% of the gross sales, just to have the vendor there. That was something that they had done. So we had told
Food
them.
vendor?
What?
A food vendor?
No, merchandise. So selling
Merchandise
T-shirts.
vendor.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we do concessions.
Yeah, okay.
So we don't have anybody there. So it is for merchandise, so T-shirts, sweatshirts, etc. And what we told Iowa Games that we city policy is for 10% as well. So we had conversations about, and this started when Kelly was still here, kind of going back and forth. But does Iowa Games take 10%? Do we take 10%, which is 20% of their gross sales? They want to make some money, so then they raise the prices, and so on, and everything. So one of the things that we talked about was, well, what if we just do the 10% and we split it between Iowa Games and the city. So in 2019, you can see they sold over $600, or actually $6,000. So 10% amounted to $629, $630. So if that was the same thing, we'd each get about $310, $315, somewhere in that range. So with it, what we looked at, we weren't getting this before. Iowa Games had been, getting it. So staff does recommend alternative number 1, which is approved request from the Iowa Games to split that 10% of gross sales between the city and 5% to the city and 5% to Iowa Games of the merchandise, that's sold for those softball tournaments. There are other alternatives. You could waive the 10%. So the vendor wouldn't pay anything to the city. And in that case, we would not receive any money. Iowa Games would get the full 10% if that's what they wound up doing. And then the third one is deny the request, and then the city just received the 10%. We've been a longtime partner with Iowa Games. They've done a lot of good. They bring a lot of people into this community over the years. Helps the hotel, motel, the industries, the restaurants, and so on. So we felt reasonable to do alternative 1 and split that 10%, 5 and 5. So I'd entertain any questions.
I do see us having a really good relationship with this. I think it showcases our facilities, our parks, and our community really well. I'm actually definitely for option 2. I don't think we need a nickel and dime over some T-shirt sales. If they want to have 10%, I think we should give it to them and just not worry about our 5%.
Yeah, I feel like the city gets a lot more benefit than $300 off of all these people coming to town and spending their money here in town. And I think it's almost being a little petty.
Yeah.
Trying to 5 and 5.
Maybe this isn't relevant, but do they use that money to be sustainable for future years? Is that what they're using their money for?
Yeah, it's not the Iowa Games is not a for-profit
So it's a
industry.
So or something. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they have supplies, they have staff,
Banners.
that all that they need to do, and they try to get a lot of sponsorships. But yeah, that money is put back into the games.
I guess I agree with the points that were stated. That alternative 2, I think, is something I'd be more supportive.
Yeah, I'm not
Keith,
worried.
didn't we waive their fees to even use the fields also?
That has just been with using the fields. That's been a long-standing thing. We never bring that to the commission. So they have in the past used the community center or softball fields and so on. It has just been from the get-go when they started, how many years ago, that we would provide facilities at no cost to Iowa Games.
I guess I will ask. I know that there's been scenarios in the past where we've just waived fees. Is there any particular reason that staff decided to split instead of waive, or?
Yeah, it was actually with the 5 and 5 was actually suggested by the Iowa Games, with it. So that's where it said, yeah, if you want to do that, it's $300 is not going to make or break us, not at all. So So the suggestion actually came from the Iowa Games.
I was just curious.
Something to kind of, is this going to be a multi-year agreement that it goes forward 5-5? Because remember, the state games of Iowa are coming in next year,
Yeah.
which is going to be huge.
Yeah, generally with any of these things, we do it year by year
Okay.
with it because, we don't know what the circumstances are in future years. There might be something else that comes up. So with any of these, same thing with Ames on the half shell when the commission, waives those fees. We do that year by year just because we know there may be things that change and we want to have all the current facts, for that year. So it would be something that we would do in the future. And in the future, if you go with alternative number 2, then next year we would just come with waiving because you give us that direction this year. So we'd probably come next year with just waive the 10% and Iowa Games can work directly with the vendor.
I actually like getting the 5-5.
Just set the precedent.
Yeah, because they get everything free. I mean, I know it's good for the city, but there is wear and tear on the fields and everything else that comes out of our
There is
your budget. Sorry.
I don't think 300.
yes, with it, we do have we do provide staff. We drag the diamonds, we pick up trash.
Oh, yeah,
We have to get rid of the trash, all those things. So with the softball tournament, there are some things. We also with that tournament, that is by far our best concession weekend because kids are down there and kids, if you've ever taken them to
I have kids. I know all about this.
I've bought those concessions.
Yes, all of them.
Yeah. So it is a good money maker for us on the concession side of things, but there are other expenses and with some of it, and I don't remember with Iowa Games, how often we have to drag the diamonds, for them. I know with the USA softball tournament, it's like every other game.
Similar, it's like every 2 games. They have a
It's every other game,
Yeah. So
and sometimes every game, depending on.
what happens.
Field conditions.
So there are other expenses, but we have been doing that, like I said, ever since the get-go. So. All right.
I'm gonna move to approve alternative 2.
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table for alternative number 2. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
Opposed?
Hey,
Okay, well, motion passes with alternative number 2 to waive the 10% of gross sales of merchandise for Iowa Games softball tournaments at North River Valley Park.
All right. Thank you. So the next item is with the reinvestment district. So our last meeting was in May, and then we had the tour in June with it. So what I did is rather than kind of just taking all the information from the council meeting on Tuesday night and doing a separate staff report, I just shared with you because it has all the pertinent information with it. So you can see that City of Ames did with the application for the reinvestment district had requested, $21,500,000 and some odd dollars, $500 and some thousand dollars. With it on that in the commission action or the council action, the staff report, sorry, it shows that right now they have given us a preliminary award of $10 million, given that for the city. So obviously a lot less than what we had asked for, and with it again, it was just roughly 27.5 was the construction cost for the aquatic center, and the goal would be is with the 10 million in private fundraising that gets us down to 7.5, and then we'd have about just almost $4.5 million in interest that we'll have to pay back on those bonds. So that's where we got roughly that $21 million. So with it, what we shared with City Council on Tuesday night was that, given that $11 million reduction, we have a gap of $7.5 million, okay, for the construction cost of the indoor aquatic center. So what we did is we gave City Council 3 options in regards to, getting that funding, that $7.5 million. So one option is the urban renewal district. So since the aquatic center is in an urban renewal district, which kind of ties in with the reinvestment district, City Council could issue bonds as an essential corporate purpose without going to a vote. Now, if they do that, they, if we issue bonds for 17.5 million, 10 million hopefully would be repaid by the tax rebate that we get through the investment district. But then we would need to still the taxpayers would be on the hook for $7.5 million. So if they go the urban renewal route with that, that would be open to a reverse referendum. So what a reverse referendum is, if they say, hey, essential corporate purpose, we're just going to issue bonds for that, then City Council has to hold a hearing. They have to do that 10 days in advance, and they usually do it 2 weeks in advance. They'll say, all right, whatever their one meeting, they set the hearing date, or sometimes they send it out in advance of that, or a little further than that 2 weeks. But with that, then if somebody wanted to petition, City Council, they would have that time to get enough signatures. And the signatures in this case would be 10% of the number of people in the last election. And in this case, it would come out to about 3,189. They'd have to have that, and they would have to submit that petition prior to the hearing. If that all gets accomplished and the petition, the signatures, and it just has to be, they don't have to have voted in the last election. They would just have to be eligible to vote, or eligible to register to vote. So if I'm not registered to vote, but I am eligible to register, I could sign that petition. But if everything comes out and all those signatures are verified, and the petition is verified, then it would have to go to a vote. So that's how the reverse referendum works. The other option is just to have a referendum election and go to a vote and put it to the voters. And again, we still have to issue bonds for 17.5 million. And again, part of that, the 10 million from the reinvestment district would go to pay off that debt. So again, the tax impact would be just for that 7.5 million with it. Again, with any referendum, we would need to have 60% of the vote with it. And one of the things with this also is when we did the Healthy Life Center, we did it in September. That was a special election, date. Generally, that's what we have done. The next special election date would be September 14th. We need to give the county auditor 46 days ahead of that vote. We have to give them the language, which would put us at the end of this month. We would have to get that information. There's one more council meeting, which is July 27th. And we just don't see that as feasible because there's also the education piece, to get to people, let them know that, hey, for $7.5 million, the city of Ames is going to get a $30 million facility roughly. Just a little bit less than that, 27.5. So that's one of the things. So the next eligible election date after that would be the general election in November. We'd have to get the information to the auditor by mid-September. But after that, if you look in or factor in also with the final application, we have the preliminary award. We still have to submit a final application, which is due February 25th of 2022. The next one is in March. So we really can't go to March because we can't submit a final application with all of our funding in line when we haven't even had a bond referendum. So that won't work. So really the only really feasible date that staff feels would be that November date, with it. So that would be going to referendum. And then the last one would be a hybrid where council could say, you know what, let's just use the urban renewal process for the 10 million that we're going to get from the state, and yet then go out and do a referendum vote for the other 7.5 million, and that would get really confusing. So, and trying to explain that would not be real easy. Would lead to a lot of confusion, and when there's a lot of confusion, then sometimes that leads to maybe some distrust, and then leads to some no votes. So with it. So those are the three options that were given to council. In the staff report, it did say that one other way would be to reduce, the cost of the construction. And one of the things that was mentioned was, could eliminate the second floor. And remember, the second floor was multi-purpose rooms and a walking track. Now, one of the conversations or some of the conversation that we've had since Tuesday night is are there other ways to accomplish some of these things instead of the second floor? Because there is a lot of glass. There is the second floor, which you have to beef up your structure. You have the elevator. You have a number of other things that happen for the second floor. So one of the things that we have discussed is, to the east of the building was just kind of that green space. And one of the things that we've been talking about is, could you put a gymnasium, which we do need gym space, do a gymnasium with a walking track around the gymnasium. And there are ways, you can put, curtains down, see through. If somebody's walking, somebody's playing basketball, kicking a ball around, protects those walkers, and so on. And then as a separate component, still do some multi-purpose space to do some of the fitness classes, other activities, meeting space, and so on. So one of the discussions that we've had again since Tuesday night, and we'll look to RDG to give us some of that maybe a cost of just doing something like that. So could we still get the multi-purpose space? Could we still get the walking track? Could we maybe get a gymnasium, which is not in the original plan? And could all of that still reduce the cost of the overall project? So those are some things that we've been discussing since then. So with all of this, I'm not going to really go through the Lincoln Way development in great depth, because there's some other things still need to do, some get a developer agreement and so on. The Onondaga property is going. The one thing with the downtown plaza, we have been working with Confluence. We're looking to go on July 27th, the city council to waive purchasing policies and stay with Confluence, because they did the original design, or that initial design, and then give them the contract for final design. So that's something that will be coming up. Again, we have, and part of all of with the plaza, as you remember, displacing a lot of parking, getting away with a lot of parking. So the property that is north of 6th Street, which is owned by, really was purchased with CPD, Community Development CDBG funds. They actually did, the other night, on Tuesday night, council did approve of repaying, that money, or giving back that money, or purchasing that from housing. And then, so we purchased that land, and then we will develop a parking lot to be sometime in the spring of 2022. Parking gets done, we can then move parking to there, and then we can start with this project hopefully next summer, with it, get a bid out and starting construction. And then there will be also some parking on the west side of Clark, that will be part of that project. So we have $3.9 million already earmarked for that project. 200 of it is for the parking improvements along Clark Avenue. The money for that parking on 6th is separate with it. But Confluence, right now they're at probably right around 300,000, something like that, for their services to do the final design and bid documents. So most likely we're going to wind up having to find some additional money, with it. Now, I'm going to go back to the Indoor Aquatic Center, because we do have some of the rescue funds, from the federal level, and we can use some of that for utilities, water utilities, sanitary sewer, and stormwater. So if we can use some of those funds, we got to check to make sure, but stormwater was 500,000. So if we can use some of those funds, that reduces the cost a little bit. If we can use some of those funds for, generally you can't use them for service lines. So we got to check to see, if they'll qualify, or some of this will qualify for those funds. But one of the other additional things, in talking with RDG this week, they put, the dollars that they gave, that 27.5 was in 2022 dollars. All right. Looking at the schedule, if the final application is due February 25th of 2022, and then we go out to design, probably about 8 months, that would take us to November. We could put the bid documents out, get them in 2023, January of 2023, and award a contract, and then not start construction until 2023. So we did ask them, all right, you gave us 2022 dollars, and you had factored in 8%, 4%, 4% inflation in there. But now we're talking 2023. So they checked with Stecker Harmson, who does estimating. They also checked with Water's Edge, who does aquatic design, and see what their projects are. And RDG looked at their own projects. And basically what they came back to us with is that with all of the factors that are going on, the overall cost of construction could be 10 to 15% higher on top of the 8% that they had already factored in. So that could add an additional $2.5 to $3.5 million to the project. Now, there may be some possibility to use some of the CARES fund from lost revenue, that we could maybe use that for this project as well. So there are a lot of pieces that we have to figure out in the near future with all of this. So I guess with that, I would ask reaction and some comments regarding, if we didn't do the second floor, but we added the gymnasium, walking track, and some space, and that saved us money, but yet even gave us what we'd have on the second floor plus some. From a staff standpoint, it seems like that would be a good way to go. But want to see what comments and reaction you have for all of this. And I'd be glad, it's a lot of information. Be glad to answer, any questions that you may have as well.
I have a comment. Seeing what our lane is of Parks and Recreation and the impact that this has upon the recreation of our citizens, right? First off, so this would be about a year without a pool at a minimum.
Probably 2 years.
Probably 2 years.
Yeah, because if we accept or get bids back in January of 2023, award the contract, construction wouldn't start until spring at the earliest, start moving dirt and so on. RDG estimates probably a 14-month project. So we're looking at probably June or May or June of 2024. And on top of that, we'll be having conversation with the DOT because the North Annex building, which is on the property where we want to build, right now they're doing some renovations, but they're in year one of a 4-year project. So we have had conversation with RDG, and we will have conversation with the DOT about, is it possible to coexist on that property? Could we be constructing the aquatic center while they are still in the North Annex? Now, RDG feels that it is possible to do that, but we have to have a number of conversations with the DOT to see if they're willing to do that as well. So there's so you're talking probably at least 2 years, without an indoor aquatic center that is owned by the city. Now, the school district, does have, pool in the high school. Water's going to be colder. They do have an agreement with the Ames Cyclone Aquatics Club. So really, we do not see on Monday through Fridays, we do not see any time to be able to do swim lessons or anything. There might be some time on the weekends, but we'll be initiating conversations with them as well coming up. And that really isn't probably going to be operational until, maybe August of next 2022. They're hoping to want to have the school open, for the fall of 2022. And the last that I had heard is that they were wanting to open everything at the same time. So with that, yeah, we will have Furman, in the summertime, and we may have to look at how do we do things differently from a swim lesson perspective. And then Jill Bird, our aquatics manager, has had some conversation with some hotels about doing things. We have done some lessons at Green Hills. We haven't been able to get into Green Hills because of the pandemic. We're hoping that we get back in there in the fall. Forker, we do some aqua classes, aqua aerobics in Forker. But Swim America, they do swim lessons in that facility. So yeah, we're very limited, and that's part of the education piece. They right now with the summer, with not having a lot of swim lessons and having some COVID rules that we had put in place, our summer lessons, they filled up just like that. We're booked and we have been able to do, some private lessons, but I'm going to guess that the fall and winter, what we're able to offer for swim lessons, I'm going to guess that, they'll get, snapped up pretty quickly as well. So that's where we're at. Kind of a long answer to your,
No,
to
I
your
appreciate it.
question.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah.
And maybe I'll go with the second half too, about the utilizing the space if we have to change the design. And I think all of us probably agree, the more facilities we have to offer to our citizens, the better.
Mhm.
Whatever works the best to get the most out there. And not to speak for anybody else.
So the space that, I guess, if we decided to, instead of doing the second level, just built a gymnasium next to the facility, were we planning to do something with that space, or was it just going to be a green space? Or
Well, the thought was that that could be used for expansion potentially in the future. But one of the issues is the parking. So really, even with the gymnasium, and not having a lot of spectator seating, because we wouldn't look at it as a kind of a game, venue type of thing. So that's not what we'd be looking at. So by taking the second floor off and doing a gymnasium and other thing, we think, and we haven't had this conversation with planning and housing, but we think that it would be a trade-off. So we would still have enough parking. So if we did the second floor and we wanted to add on to the east in the future, we may not have enough parking, to be able to do that. So what it does is it still utilizes, and hopefully the parking that we can put on the site accommodates what we want to do with everything on the first floor. And hopefully save money and, add additional facilities than what we would have up on that second floor.
What was how much do we save by cutting off the second floor?
So
I can't remember what
it was just under $5 million. Yeah, so it's like 4.8 million.
4.8 million to add that second floor on there. So if we cut
Something like that.
So if we cut that down, does that have, say we just cut that off and decide to go with indoor 1 story, does that impact our provisional funding for the project? Will we still get the 10 million, whether we cut off the second floor or if we go ahead?
We have not had that conversation.
Is that what we presented to them, was a 2-story?
It was a 2-story, but I know one of the things that they really liked about the project was the aquatic center.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will impact. It's a conversation we'll have to have with them, but I don't think it'll impact. They'll come back and say, no, we're only going to give you 9 million. But we have not had that conversation with them because this just came up on Tuesday night when
because I'd be half
council.
tempted to just say cut off the second floor, save yourselves $5 million, get the bond issue down to 2.4 where nobody complains and get water.
It sounds like you're gonna need some of that for inflation.
Right. I mean, yeah, so it's gonna be whatever, but
Yeah.
just cut off the second floor and and start planning elsewhere for.
You said you needed more gym space.
We always can use
Oh, yeah.
gym space, that we have control over. Just for example, and Nicole, the rest of the commission has heard me say this before. We rely, especially in the wintertime, on the school district. And last year we did some more things at the community center. What it does is it reduces the amount of open gym time, we can have. But there are a number of times when we're at the school district and using a facility and we get called the day before and say, oh, you can't use the facility tomorrow night, or you can't use this. We've had it where we had a program ready to start and we got notified that the school was not going to do a program and we couldn't have the gym space. Luckily, we were able to move it to another school, but all those things are, they take time and we aren't always able to move, to it. And I get it. The school wants to do their own programs and they have needs and so on. So the more things that we have in our control, the better it is for our customers, because then we say, hey, Tuesday and Thursday nights at 5:00, they know Tuesday and Thursday, they're gonna be able to go to this. So that's one of the struggles when we rely on other organizations. And don't get me wrong, we couldn't do what we do without the school district. So we are very appreciative of everything that they do and that we can use. So So it's not a negative. It's just, sometimes, again, when they're running their own programs and they have, needs, that's, we get the brunt of it, and then we have to, communicate that to our customers. So,
Yeah, I think they've always been very good about working with us and
yeah.
working with the city. So
I do have one other question, and this, I might be misremembering this, but I thought when we had the initial discussion that when we were talking about the second level, that it was something that we could maybe do later. Is that not possible?
So it is something that could be done later, but if you want to have that option, and I don't remember the cost associated with it, you would have to make sure that the first floor structure is built in a way to accommodate that extra weight and things. The one thing that we didn't like about adding the second floor over everything is there is no good way to be able to add that without shutting down, the facility.
Yeah.
If you're going to do the track, you're going to have construction. There's just really no way that you're going to be able to do that because some of, the roof's going to be high anyways over the pool, but you're going to have to make sure that all of that is spec'd to be able to accommodate all that extra weight and everything. So you would save some money if you want to do it later, but I think Dwayne, you had mentioned at the time that anytime you kick something down the road, kick the can down the road, costs just go up and up and up, and we don't know what's gonna happen. And one of the things that RDG mentioned the other night that is a concern for them, well, they're already seeing supply shortages, supply delays, material shortages, labor shortages. And one of the things that RDG brought up is with this infrastructure bill at the federal level, if that goes through, now some of the materials, there's going to be a much higher demand with it. And I read an article a couple of weeks ago that, they could, in the construction industry, they could use a million more workers, right now. And so that's there's a lot of things. And that's why you see, when I said earlier, 10 to 15% higher cost above the 8% that they had put in there. That's why they're coming back with that. So does that answer your question, Jacob?
Yeah, and I was just curious what that difference in terms of cost
and I don't remember what that cost was to make the structure strong enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I guess the only reason I brought it up is because I was curious because it sounds like, if we do the extra building, I don't know how much we'd necessarily save in difference.
Right.
If it would just be essentially the difference of that extra structural strength that we would have to add to the first level, or if we would actually save a significant amount of money.
Yeah, and I know when I asked RDG that question, I just don't remember, for some reason, just under $2 million, but I don't remember, so I don't want to really give something definitive.
Yeah.
But it's something we could look at again too.
Part of the thing is when you're dealing with government construction, you might as well just jack the price right up, because it's not like going out and doing a remodel at your house for $10,000-$15,000 when you're dealing with government financing or government construction. It's $60,000-$70,000 for that same job.
Mm-hmm.
But the concern that I've had all along was when we went into the last election, we were basically trying to combat the no vote, because there was a lot of misconceptions about what the Healthy Life Center really was. There was a lot of people that didn't want to pay the full ticket price, even though that wasn't what it was. And even though the information was out there that said this part of it and what we're doing is you would have got all the rest of this free. So now we're looking at $27 million for a facility. If you think about the Life Center, there was a couple extra million thrown, or 27 million. There's a few extra $1 million thrown on there, and they had all the rest of those amenities for nothing, plus some bus stops, plus some infrastructure, a lot of other neat stuff. But we had to combat the no vote on that one, and that was a really hard sell. We've talked a lot about losing the municipal pool and having no indoor facility in a city our size with the kind of visitation we have is incomprehensible. And I have not heard anybody balk at the $27 million price tag. So the second floor, doing it when we do it, is needed because I guarantee you this building is probably going to have their space taken away from them at some point. I think the police department already tried to scooch you their way over. But that's the thing, is that they have the space in this building that is very tenable about going away. So having that extra, possibility of a space down the road to build something for, say, $7-8 million to plop on there, doing that instead of having then going to say, do we add on to a second story structure on another building that then you jack up another $3-4 million, which just paid for the second story on the first building. So I have yet to hear for anybody really balking at this price tag because it's an indoor pool, because now they're hearing the other pools going away.
Yeah.
And the concern I have, big time concern I have, is that general elections are horrible for bond votes, because you get a lot of people going to vote for the general election and they just say, I don't want to pay extra taxes, have no idea what it is. And that 60% is very dicey. So quite frankly, I know it's coming up at the end of July, but I know the lawyers can have everything kind of written up beforehand to get this thing on the September vote. Because we could get out into the community and kind of talk about, now they see the high school being built. They know that these things are going down, and you get a yes vote going into special elections, because those are the people in the community that want this facility, and they far outweigh the other side. And that will probably give you a good idea with the reverse referendum, which is a new thing to the city or to the state, is that with that reverse referendum coming in, that'll kind of give you an idea of how many votes you got to beat. Because if you have somebody gets the 3,000, we're dead in the water. And we have to go to referendum vote. So if that happens, if they get 2,000, 1,000, we don't even have to vote. The city just finds the bond trader and we're on the road. Yeah. So the quicker, the better, that we're not even looking at a vote, especially a general election. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's.
As I say, I've never. The rate for a bond vote on a general election is much lower in my experience.
I will say those bonds right now, get it while you can.
Oh, the rates are going up.
I mean, I deal with this every day at the bank. And if you want to get some money, you better do it now.
Yeah. So with all of it, and I'll share all this stuff with the city manager, because right now council has said, on Tuesday night, they said that they would make their decision on the 27th regarding whether vote or do the urban renewal. And they may choose to do an urban renewal. They may choose to go to a vote. But you're right, Dwayne. It's tough with the general election, because you do get a lot of people that just are. You get more people out there voting generally, and you get a lot of naysayers. And really with it, I know you talked about the $27 million price tag. With this, it's really, you got right now we have 9.3 million in private donations. We have 10 million from the state. So again, it's really the implication to the tax base is going to be $7.5 million. Again, depending on what we do, if we do, all first floor, what the increases, may be, even if it's 9 million, something like that. Again, a $9 million, if we said to any of us, you give me 9, I'll give you 27. I don't think anybody at the table would say no. So
you wouldn't think.
Well, that's one of the things. We have not heard the rally cry when in talking in the public about this, and even at the council meetings, we haven't heard that rally cry to kill it. Like they had the rally cry to kill the Healthy Life Center.
Right.
So that's kind of an interesting dynamic that isn't filtering out there in Ames, and there's lots of places that comes up. I mean, that's the cool thing, that people are seeing this as something we need. Yeah. And the sooner the better, because they do know we're having something going down.
Well, and that's a good point, because this came up with council, with the, it's like, well, we haven't heard a lot from, when this is back in January and February. We haven't heard a lot regarding the indoor aquatic center. It's like, well, we had multiple meetings, we had, opportunities with the commission. We sent out, information to 6,000 people, whatever's on our list, and it really wasn't generating, a lot of things. And if you look back to 2003, when we had the Recplex, that was a $24 million bond referendum, got voted down. That was an indoor aquatic center, outdoor aquatic center, 3 gymnasiums, climbing wall,
That'd have been fun to have.
and things. So that got voted down. Came back with $9-10 million bond referendum for the outdoor aquatic center, and it passed healthy. So yeah, I think I don't know.
So can we say
conversation.
just go for the 27, try the reverse referendum, and let's do it?
I don't think there's going to be somebody that's really
I
out
would
there
say do
that's
that.
fired up
It's
to go
just-
get 3,000.
Yeah.
Because that's a hell of a lot of petitions to
Yeah.
go get signed
Yeah.
and
It's-
do in a very short period of time.
Because it's in the 14 days between the vote by the first vote by
Once
council.
they announce, you have
Yeah,
then you have
once-
to come
Yeah,
forward.
once they announce,
Okay.
the hearing has to be set at least 10 days ahead of the actual hearing.
Yeah, let's do it.
And so that's how that works. So,
Yeah.
and again, that's not our decision, the commission
No.
decision, but like I said, I will share your comments with the city manager and city council. So,
Good.
I think if we feel like there's support for it in the community, just go
There
for the
is.
27.
yeah,
This is kind of like the high school vote. Everybody didn't want to pay for a new high school until they found out that the old high school was falling down on their kids. And then they went, I think we ended up at 85% plus on that vote. And it was amazing because the rally cry is the infill young families that live right here. That was the biggest voting block we had for the high school. So that was the cool part. And this is going to be in their backyard.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And those are
Very
some
diverse.
things. Yeah, those are some things that we heard was location. This is more centrally located. The cost, the tax implications. The membership fees. And that's something that we have to nail down here too. Is what are those fees going to be? Right now. In the taxes, and not only be the debt repaying, but it also, right now we've been telling council about 400,000 of tax subsidy, for this facility. So once we get the final numbers, we did share some numbers with council on Tuesday night regarding the potential what would cost per 100,000. I didn't bring that tonight because I know the numbers are going to change based on that conversation. So once you start throwing numbers out there, people, that's what they remember. So we're going to wait until we have something more firm to share with you. And again, if it comes to that point, council, may elect to just do it. Now we would still have to, well, and with the operational expenses, a subsidy additional that would be a tax impact. So. All right, so just so 27 million, I hear that.
Go.
And I guess I hear some both sides, whether keep the second story or
Keep the second story. Just- yeah.
Nathan, you said, hey, if we go to a first story, we actually wind up with if we could save some money and actually have more, we'd have more facilities than we do with just a second floor.
I like that as well.
That's a good option. I know that's what staff would, likes also but again, we have to see what it's going to cost and how much do you save with the second floor and what would the additional stuff on the first floor cost. But
I would also agree that we need to get the show on the road and get this thing out.
yeah,
Like
Because
now.
let's call the cities, to say action and say, if there's really people out there that do not want this, then show us your hand because we're not hearing it.
yeah.
I mean, there's, we're talking to folks and that's not coming up. The other real wild card in all this is the February 21st deadline, if any one of these, what was it, 7 organizations and cities fail to hit the deadline, that money for them, like Fort Dodge right now is having trouble getting their stuff together. Newton is also having trouble getting their stuff together. So they got 20 something million between the two of them. That might be thrown back into the pool. We may actually get more money.
Right.
Because from what I'm hearing from your city council folks that I know, they're not about to miss the deadline.
No.
So that's the neat part, is that there might be 2 groups out there that are struggling. Now, Des Moines, I think, is dead. You know, they already got, they're asking for more already. So
Yeah. And
I
in
think
between,
they're trying to get rid of Fort Dodge.
yeah, in between Fort Dodge and Newton, that's $31 million.
Is it 31 million?
Is what they've been. And I know one of the things that we did hear from the Iowa Economic Development Authority Board was that they don't, we pretty much ask for 100% of what the reinvestment district is going to, was projected to get in sales tax. So, and they generally do not, that's just not their practice. So that's why we got less than 50%. But they did say, yeah, if somebody doesn't come through, that money will go back in the pot and they'll redistribute it. So
That's good.
How do you plan on, or do you have a plan for informing folks on what's going on? I guess my big thing is I want to try to get people to understand what it is.
yeah.
Before.
So just before Tuesday night's meeting on Monday, the council or the staff report that you received, we sent that out to all of our swim lesson participants, lap swimmers, season pass holders. We send it to everybody that's involved in aquatics. And I did mention to the mayor and to the city manager, that we have this ability to distribute other things. So in fact, I asked them this afternoon, is there anything that you want us to be doing between now and the 27th? And they're going to think about it, but we will use whatever avenues we have, to share information. So.
I just want us to be able to get the correct information out.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we got to get the correct information, too. So council still has some decisions to make, and we still have some figures to get and some information. So a lot to be done. A lot to be done.
That was 2,086. Everybody that's done any aquatics with us.
Yeah.
In 20 or 21, and 55%, which is huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
Thank you.
Are you just looking for, I guess, comments to take to council, or are you looking for like informal motion from the commission?
Nope, just comments.
Okay.
Yep, just comments at this time. No motion needed. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Very good. Thank you so much for that conversation and feedback.
Project updates.
We highlighted stuff in the monthly report, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
Anything you want to highlight on the monthly report? Any comments from the commissioners?
Josh, we got anything?
No.
No.
I guess the one thing that I would just mention is, we were concerned about how quick people would come back to things. And you saw with some of the numbers, with our camps in 2019, we averaged 33 people per week. Right now we're averaging over 50. And if we were able to find additional staff, we'd probably even be higher than that. When you're looking at some of those youth programs, the dance and gymnastics are lower, but we put the asterisk on there that, we had to limit registration because we couldn't find people qualified to teach. So that's some of the, when we talk about labor shortages and a number of different things, getting those qualified instructors in some cases is a little bit difficult, but people have been coming back and it's been great at the Furman Aquatic Center. Boy, that weather at the beginning helped a ton. We surpassed our budget projections. We were kind of conservative with season passes and in daily admissions and so on, but we surpassed what we had budgeted. So it's a good thing, and hopefully that that continues. The one thing I'll just mention is in our recruitment for Kelly's position or that vacancy with recreation superintendent, we had 48 applicants for it. 21 of them did not meet minimum qualifications, so that left us with 27. Of the 27, we selected 8 to do a virtual interview. We had 5 interviews yesterday. We have 3 interviews tomorrow, and we're hoping to actually make a decision tomorrow afternoon or at the latest Monday in regards to who we'll bring for an onsite, and we'll probably bring 3, 4, or 5 potentially. So just with the interviews yesterday, we're very happy with the quality of the applicants. They all bring something a little different, so it'll be fun to have the conversation and decide who we bring on site, and then go from there. So that's just an update on
That's
that.
good.
When are you hoping to have that position filled?
So on-site, we may do some on-site interviews next week. Most likely, first part of August will be the rest of them, or all of them if we don't get any done next week. So hopefully we can have somebody here right after September 1st, somewhere early September. So
Cool.
yeah.
Any other comments? Questions?
Answers?
Answers?
No answers.
Okay, the next meeting is Thursday, August 19th at 4. And it should be in person here.
Yep.
So moving forward.
Yeah. Good to see everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, very nice.
Okay, can I get a
I'll
motion?
move to adjourn.
Second.
Don't
Okay.
need to.
Motion.